The Halloween franchise is something of a mystery to me. Not many franchises can jerk around an audience in different directions for over 4 decades, only to have them come back for more. And I'm not saying that to be insulting, it's actually quite an achievement. Ever since John Carpenter made a movie in 1978 about an evil guy going around killing people, there have been 11 more entries into the franchise, grossing over $700 million. With another movie coming out next year. And over the past 40 years, it's gone in some strange directions. And that's what I mean when I say jerking around the audience. First, there was Halloween. Then Halloween 2. And that was pretty much supposed to be it for Michael Myers, as Halloween 3 had nothing to do with him, as they thought they would make Halloween into an anthology franchise. But then they brought him back and made 4, 5, and 6. Then there's Halloween H2O, which says, okay, in this timeline, forget everything that happened after Halloween 2. So it's Halloween, Halloween 2, and then this, and then Resurrection, and that's it for that timeline. Then we had Rob Zombie's reboot with Halloween and Halloween 2, or as I like to call it, Amateur Hour, since it feels exactly like a crappy student film. It's got the pretentious symbolism, and it features dialogue that sounds like something you'd find written on a stall in a high school bathroom. And thank God that was the end of that timeline. 9 years later, we got Halloween, the sequel to Halloween. And this movie, Halloween Kills, the sequel to the Halloween sequel, Halloween. And in this timeline, it goes Halloween and then forget literally everything else until this. From what I've seen online and messages that I've received from people, it seems that Halloween fans are kind of split when it comes to this movie. Some people think it's the best Halloween sequel ever, and others think it's terrible.
What?
And the thing is, whenever you have a franchise that's been going on for this long with such a huge fan base, it's impossible to please everyone. I've watched the movie twice now. The second time, I watched it right after rewatching Halloween 2018, and for me, I feel the movie has its moments, but I also think it suffers from being the setup movie to the conclusion, or what I would like to think is the conclusion of this timeline at least. Now, for the record, I enjoyed the 2018 Halloween for what it was, and I also think that in many ways, Halloween Kills complements that movie. One of the things that I enjoyed about the 2018 Halloween was that it included some visual callbacks to the original film, and I think they were well done. There's some of this in Halloween Kills as well, but not to the same degree. The movie has a lot of ideas, some of which I think were executed very well, others not at all. Now, there's going to be some spoilers here, fair warning. I did enjoy the flashbacks to 1978, and quite honestly, one of my favorite things about this movie is the work they did on Tom Jones Jr. to turn him into Dr. Loomis. Tom Jones Jr. has worked as a construction coordinator on a bunch of different productions, but this was his first acting role, and not only do I think he did a great job, but the work they did on him to make him resemble Donald Pleasance was extremely well done. Now, the story picks up right after the events of the last movie, so it's the same Halloween night. Laurie was stabbed, so they rush her to the hospital where she has surgery, and this is where she remains for pretty much 99% of the movie, stuck in a hospital bed. And I have to say, unfortunately, Jamie Lee Curtis was pretty much wasted in this movie. Obviously, they're not going to have Laurie face Michael again until Halloween ends, but again, this is one of the downfalls of having this as a setup movie. There's an attempt to add in many other characters to make up for this, but ultimately, I think it leads to a lot of split focus. I'm not opposed to seeing these characters. In fact, I think it was a cool idea to bring back some of the characters who were kids in the original film. But the problem is there's not really enough time to develop them to the point where I actually cared about them more than the typical one-dimensional horror movie kill-off characters, and quite frankly, the movie is long enough as it is. The movie takes these characters and has them driving this storyline where they go out and spend the movie hunting down Michael Myers, which is fine, but then it really goes off the deep end when the whole town collectively loses its mind, and the residents start acting as if they're in an episode of South Park. Tommy starts riling everybody up in the hospital, and everyone just instantly jumps on board his rallying cry, and before you know it, there's a whole mob of people chasing after an escaped mental patient that they think might be Michael Myers.
Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight! Evil dies tonight! Evil dies tonight!
It's absolutely ridiculous, and in the end it feels like it was shoehorned in so that the movie can deliver this message about mob mentality and have its own Frankenstein moment when the guy kills himself and everybody suddenly realizes, oh, wow, we're the monsters.
Now he's turning us into monsters.
Not only that, but the fact that all these people suddenly turned into a bloodthirsty mob within minutes makes absolutely no sense to me. Let's keep in mind here, this timeline only includes the events of the last movie and the original. So there's literally been a 40-year gap between the original Michael Myers killing spree and this one, with nothing in between. So it's not a case where the town is like, "Ah, this keeps happening again and again all the time. That's enough of this." No, this happened once before, 4 decades ago. And keep in mind, this is still the same night as the last movie. So all of the facts about who's been killed and what's currently happening aren't even fully known yet. Also, I have a hard time believing that all of these people were even around 40 years ago, much less have been sitting on the edge of their seat ready to go off at the drop of a hat. But it all ties in to deliver this message about mob mentality, which I get, but it's just so heavy-handed that it comes off corny and out of place. Karen manages to lure Michael into a trap by taking his mask, and I enjoy this idea to lure him out, except that I personally never want to see Michael's face. In these two movies, you never actually see a full in-focus close-up, but even the amount that they do show is too much for my liking. And again, this is just me, but I never liked seeing his face even in the original Halloween. I've always felt that this is a case where less is more. For example, I think that when used sparingly, seeing his eyes beneath the mask is incredibly effective. It serves as a chilling reminder that there's an actual person behind all of this. They did this a few times in the past 2 movies, and I've always felt the results look great. Michael's mask in this movie has been burned from the fire, and I still really like it. This mask is as close to the original as they've ever gotten, which I think is safe to say is the best mask. Now, I enjoyed Halloween H2O. I think it was one of the few good sequels, but one of my problems with the movie is that you could see his eyes so clearly all the time with the mask they eventually went with. I think it took away from the mystique and even at times looked a bit silly. And I say the mask they eventually went with because I think there was a total of 4 masks used throughout that production, including a CG mask, which looks horrible now and still looked horrible even back then. I remember seeing the movie when it came out when I was a lot younger, and I was just sitting there like, and what the hell is that? And if you're interested in why that happened, there's a documentary called Halloween 25 Years of Terror, and it explains it in detail. It's on YouTube, I'll put the link in the description. In terms of the cinematography, there is a lot to be enjoyed here. Michael Simmons was the director of photography, and I'm not surprised. He was the DOP for the last Halloween, and I loved his work in that movie. Simply put, Halloween Kills is a great looking movie. At times it's gorgeous. Some of the visuals alone were almost enough to distract me from its shortcomings in the writing department. I also want to point out that James Jude Courtney is once again incredible as Michael Myers. I think Courtney does a great job with his movement. It really communicates just how unstoppable Michael is. One of the things I've always liked about this character is his ability to be super intimidating and terrifying by doing very little, but also being so unpredictable in terms of how suddenly explosive he can be, and this is on full display here. I also enjoyed the ending. I think that killing Karen was a good move as it amps up what I imagine will be the final confrontation between Laurie and Michael in the conclusion even more. I also feel that this was paying homage to the shower scene in Psycho, which of course starred Janet Leigh, the mother of Jamie Lee Curtis. Fun fact, Jamie Lee Curtis even dressed up as her to the premiere of this movie. Also, while I was watching this, I couldn't help but think how funny it would be if there was a take. You know, sometimes on sets they do like pranks or joke takes, and I just think it would be hilarious if there was a joke take they did where right before he starts stabbing her, Judy Greer starts acting as Kitty from Arrested Development.
Are you threatening me? Say goodbye to your company, Michael. And say goodbye to these.
Now, with all of that being said, Unfortunately, I don't feel like the strengths are enough to outweigh the weaknesses. Like I said before, the movie felt unfocused to me when we're not following an angry mob of suddenly stupid townspeople chasing after the wrong guy. We're watching characters reminiscing about stuff that really doesn't matter and is of no consequence. It's almost as if they had a few good ideas of how to start and end the movie, but then realized we gotta fill this in with stuff that lasts an hour or so. It's clearly not the worst Halloween sequel, but it's definitely not the best either. The thing is, I don't go into these movies expecting a lot because, quite honestly, what's left to do? There have been so many movies at this point, some obviously better than others, and they've taken the audience to some weird places, from cults to different timelines, to even watching a guy squat down and take a giant self-indulgent dump all over the franchise. The thing is, there's no reason to believe that Halloween Ends will finally put the franchise to rest. There's too much money to be made. And if you're a fan of the series and you want to see more, well, don't worry, because there's bound to be another one around the corner at some point, but that's also proven to be a double-edged sword. For example, Halloween H2O, in my opinion, had a fine ending for the franchise. Laurie literally chops off Michael's head. If the franchise ended there, I would have been satisfied with that. But no, let's come up with some harebrained explanation about how he put the mask on another guy, and hey, here's another great idea. Let's kill Laurie and make this movie about an online reality show. Halloween Resurrection was obviously a pretty bad movie, easily one of the worst sequels. But at least Michael Myers actually wore his mask throughout the movie. Halloween 3 did away with the Michael Myers story completely. But quite honestly, I'd rather have no Michael Myers than this Michael Myers. But again, that's just me. So I would love to see your rankings of the Halloween movies, or even just which ones are your favorites. So be sure to post that in the comments. And as usual, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all next time.